New this morning, one person is dead after a shooting on Northwest Gleason near 21st. This happened right near the Silver Dollar Pizza Shop. In fact, a glass door on their building is broken. I don't know if you can see it there. Police have placed evidence markers inside, and so far they aren't releasing many details this morning, but we'll bring you all the information we know as soon as we get it.
Also new this morning, a 4-alarm fire has destroyed a building in Southeast Portland. It's right at 9th and Alder. You can see the moment it came crashing down. Crews have been on the scene there for hours. The call first came in around 12:30 this morning. So far, there's no word how that fire may have started.
New data from the Oregon Health Authority shows more breakthrough cases happening. From September 12th through the 18th, the vaccinated accounted for just over 23% of COVID cases in the state. The week before, the rate was close to 19%. Back up to mid-August, it was just 12%. However, the overwhelming majority of cases in Oregon are still people who are unvaccinated. It's also important to note, vaccinated people still rarely wind up in the hospital.
Well, many students still aren't eligible to get vaccinated, and with school back in session, there's growing concern about COVID in the classroom.
That's right. The state's last weekly report shows 750 new cases in young kids, 2 of which were hospitalized. But the real problem is finding an appointment to get tested. We spoke with Dr. Corey Fish, a pediatrician at Brave Care. He's getting a lot of questions from parents and says many factors play into why testing has become such a big focus.
The first one is that, the jury's still a little bit out with Delta. I think still the question hasn't been definitively answered about kids and are kids more susceptible. But what we're seeing without question is that there are more kids being affected, whether that's just because there's more cases overall or because it's, specifically worse for kids. I think people are still trying to wrap their head around it to figure out.
Still a lot of questions. This week, Portland Public Schools sent out consent forms for parents to opt into weekly COVID-19 screen testing for their kids. Students whose families opted in are expected to get test kits in early October.
Well, it's official. A CDC panel has cleared the way for millions of Americans to get COVID booster shots from Pfizer. Today, the CDC director is expected to sign off on that recommendation. It applies to anyone 65 and older, people who live in long-term care facilities, and those over 50 with underlying medical conditions. And new overnight, the CDC director added to that list, recommending boosters for frontline workers and those under 50 with health conditions.
The decision today is critical because it's answering a question all Americans are asking: who should get boosters and when?
Here in Oregon, that applies to about 230,000 people. Now, coming up on the Today Show this morning, they're going to be talking about why not everyone who hoped to qualify will actually be eligible to get a third shot. That's coming up at 7, right after sunrise.
Governor Inslee in Washington doubled down on his vaccine mandate for state employees Thursday. The state currently has over 630,000 COVID cases and over 7,000 deaths since the pandemic started. According to the governor, 10 people died of COVID in just 24 hours at an Olympia hospital. He says these deaths could have been prevented if those people got the vaccine.
We also have to be adept in understanding that we have to drive this pandemic into the ground. Even if this number comes down in the upcoming months, if we don't get more people vaccinated, it could come right back up again, given all of the changes that are happening. More children going back to school, more people going to large events, more people going inside because it is winter.
The governor expanded his COVID-19 vaccine mandate back in August. This includes most state employees and healthcare workers. Roughly 600 first responders are joining a lawsuit to challenge that mandate. Governor Inslee says he will not move the deadline, requiring workers to be vaccinated by October 18th.
The container port in North Portland is busier now than it has been in years. 2 different shipping lines are making weekly deliveries. Plus, some chartered ships are stopping at Terminal 6. That's great news for the Port of Portland, which owns the terminal, and for local businesses waiting for products from China and Korea. Weekly cargo service stopped back in 2016 during a labor dispute between the Longshoremen's Union and the company operating the docks at the time. But relations have improved and the ships are returning.
I have to tell you, I mean, I was the Marine Operations Director back when we leased the container terminal, and things didn't go so well. But I can't give enough credit to the longshoremen for the partnership in bringing the terminal back.
Portland and Terminal 6 are inland ports, smaller than the major operations up in Seattle or in Long Beach, California. Well, the promise of cooler fall weather is a big relief, especially after the summer scorcher that we all went through right here in the Northwest. So back in June, more than 100 Oregonians died in the heat wave.
Now, President Biden is talking about a strategy to combat the seemingly more common extreme temperatures. What does it mean for us? Keely Chalmers breaks it down.
This past summer, the Pacific Northwest experienced a rare heat wave, also called a heat dome, that sent temperatures soaring and many in our vulnerable populations to emergency rooms. In Oregon, at least 115 people died from the extreme heat event, an event climate expert Erica Fleischman says will become more common.
There have been projections that if emissions of greenhouse gases continue at current rates, an event like that is likely to occur every 5 to 10 years by the middle of the century.
Fleischman is the director of the Oregon Climate Change Research Institute. She says climate change is making all types of weather more extreme, with one extreme event exacerbating another. Take, for example, the recent hurricanes in the South.
The hurricane knocked out electricity, which meant that people did not have access to cooling. And so in the wake of the hurricane, they suffered from the heat.
Extreme heat now ranks as the leading weather-related cause of death in the country, according to the National Weather Service.
Having a national effort to improve protections for workers, to me, makes a lot of sense given the way climate change is heading.
This week, President Biden launched a strategy to protect workers from the impact of rising temperatures linked to climate change. Oregon and Washington are among a handful of states with heat standards for those working outdoors.
In fact, heat stress can be deadly.
Oregon enacted a temporary order this summer requiring employers to take certain steps when the temperatures rise above 80 degrees.
Those steps include providing adequate supply of water, ample shade that's available near the work site, and the additional steps include requirements that supervisors stay in communication with their workers.
And when temperatures rise above 90 degrees, employers are required to give workers cool down or rest periods every couple of hours. Right now, this is a temporary rule, but Oregon OSHA hopes to make it a permanent one by the end of the year. Fleischman says other ideas being tossed around include changing hours worked so that people aren't working in the heat of the day, and ensuring that people are aware of the signs of heat exhaustion or heat stroke and know they won't be punished for addressing them.
And are able to take breaks and take care of their health and have protection so they're not penalized for perhaps a decrease in productivity, but needing to decrease that productivity in order to safeguard their health.
Because safeguarding our health in a future of extreme weather is something we will all need to do. Keely Chalmers, KGW News.